Okay, so I just finished filming my tuning video, and it's a day early, so I'm gonna make this video first. We got them Hero 8s. Dang, look at that freshness. So this is the brand spanking new Hero 8, Hero 8 Black, as you can see. And first things first, we're gonna weigh it. We got all of them. We got all the ones that they had.
Yeah.
All right, wait, I don't want.
Not that scale. This one.
Oh, okay.
That's a big scale.
I'm like, I didn't know this was over here.
This little nugget on there. I'm guessing 128.
Dang!
It's only
125.
It's only 11 grams more than the 7.
All right, so we're 11 grams more than a 7. Next up is, will it fit the 3D print for a Hero 7?
No.
Uh-oh.
You screwed.
No, it will not.
You are screwed.
Uh-oh. Dang! The video ends here.
Can't mount it.
Okay, so the first problem is that it is not going to fit into any of your 3D prints. As you can see here, it ain't gonna work. There ain't no two ways about it. So unfortunately, I can't use it with my normal mounts. So as an interim fix for right now, just so that I can get a test flight on this setup before it gets dark outside, I have the double-sided sticky, or I guess just the sticky one, mount, because it has these flip-out little mounts to go. The new GoPro Hero 8 doesn't have the skeleton case. It only has these flip outs. So what I'm doing is I'm just using the sticky mount on the quad, holding it in place with this.
Basically, he ghetto a fuck.
That'll work fine. Now, we're back in the studio because I want to talk to you guys about some additional stuff. When I was over at Steele's, we were near sunset, the sun was going down. I just wanted to get in a few packs so that I'd have as much information to share with you guys as possible, testing out various settings, etc. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking to the camera because I knew I could do that here. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the stabilization in this GoPro. I noticed this before we even got back to Steele's house because I'd paired it up with my cell phone here, and I was just looking at the image and pointing it at stuff, and I noticed how crazy good Hypersmooth is. Now, Hypersmooth has been good for a long time. I've been using it on my Hero 7s for a good long while now, but this is just kind of taking it to absurd level. We have Hypersmooth 2.0. And then we also have Hypersmooth Boost, which is available anytime that you're, as far as I can tell, I don't want to say this like as a blanket statement, but it seems to be available anytime that you're running Super View. It won't work in Super View. It doesn't work at the highest frame rates, like 4K 60 wide. Hypersmooth Boost was also not working. So I just want to show you this because this is what I noticed in the car with Steele as we were driving down the road. This is, as you can see, the GoPro and the live view from the GoPro. Now, if I just start like kind of gently shaking the GoPro around, do you notice how stable the image still is regardless of the amount of shake that I have here? Oh wait, I'm getting myself in focus. Like, this is just kind of absurd that is working as well as it is. Now, imagine that this is on a mini quad going 60 miles an hour down the road. Even if you have a lot of oscillations, it's going to do a pretty dang good job of getting rid of that. So, very impressed with Hypersmooth before we even got back to the house. When we got back to the house, I went ahead and set it up with all of my settings, which I've been meaning to do a GoPro settings video forever. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a little screen record on my cell phone here while I talk about the settings that I do use. So I went ahead and got it set up with my current settings. Let's dive right into those real quick. So here are the settings that I use on my GoPro. I rock it in 4K, 30 frames per second with a Super View field of view. Hypersmooth is on. Short clips, I don't need that. we now have the option for bitrate, which I have a feeling is going to just be offering us a lower bitrate option and not so much giving us any higher bitrate. But, you know, I will wait on some more advanced YouTubers to do videos about just any bitrate changes. The shutter, now I know a lot of guys are going to tell you run ND filters, play by the 180 rule. Yes, I think that that is absolutely the correct thing to do. If you are making if you want the highest quality, then you're going to lock your shutter speed down by the 180 rule. You're going to run an ND filter. You're going to have the ISO set how you set it. You're basically setting manual exposure so it never changes in flight. But I don't do that most of the time. Most of the time I'm just making videos for YouTube, for you guys, and most of my audience are just FPV pilots that want to see flying. And so I rock with shutter at auto. I don't really mess with the ND filters most of the time. There are occasions where I'll be like, I really want this shot. I lock everything down and I do it the legit way. But most of the time, I just run with shutter at auto and let it roll. Let's see, what else? EV comp. This is something that I do that's a little bit different. I like to run the EV compensation down at -0.5 a stop. ISO min 100, ISO max, the ISO limit at 400, white balance auto, sharpness down at medium, colors flat, no raw audio, and I haven't messed with this wind setting in here, but I'm assuming that auto it's going to come on for when we fly, and there's really 3 options: auto, on, or off. Off is going to sound bad. I can just tell you that right now. On is going to sound, for a mini quad, pretty much what auto sounds like. So that's how I run it. There's a couple other settings that are in here that you can change, but that's my main settings. 4K, 30, super view, hyper smooth, half a stop, exposure compensation down, sharpness at medium, and the colors at flat. And done. Now that said, let's get into what this video looks like. Now, to be fair, the very first clip that I recorded, I forgot to set the exposure compensation to half a stop underexposed. And so my normal color treatment doesn't really work for that clip. You know what? Let's just dive right into taking care of this on the computer. And also, just so that I can capture the audio from the GoPro here in Final Cut, as well as talk to the microphone, I'm going to switch over to using some headphones. So not only did I forget to turn down that exposure compensation, I also, I think I may have not screwed down the little nut, locking nut on the setup very well, because I heard a little bit of oscillations. I got a little bit more vibrations and jello on the first flight. Now, this is not my normal 3D printed mount. I feel confident that it's going to handle just fine once I get it into the mount. But I will say that on the first flight in particular, I saw a little bit more jello. Let's just go look at some of this footage instead of talking about it. Now, this is non-color graded, straight out of camera that we're looking at. I'm going to go over here to my trimming image so that we get a little bit bigger image, and we're just going to kind of look at it. You see, it's got a little bit of jello there. I heard something weird going on in the prop noise as I was flying it, and I can definitely see that it's got some jello that it's fighting against. It just gets a little bit blurry as I'm kind of punching the throttle. Now, I think that I did just have that screw maybe a little bit looser than I needed it to be, because later on I didn't have as much of a problem. It still was a bit of a problem. I just think that mounting it via these little flip outs it's not going to be as stable a mounting solution as sliding it into a 3D print. Once we slide it into a 3D print, I feel confident that a lot of these problems are going to go away. I mean, just looking at it, it already looks pretty freaking vibrant. I don't want to try to color grade this clip in particular because, like I said, I forgot to have the exposure compensation on. I did already try to drop my typical color correction onto this one, and it just looked a little bit wonky. Mainly because I don't have the exact same settings on this GoPro as I would on my Hero 7. Because at first I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to recolor grade everything, but it turns out that's not really the case. It's more so the case that I just didn't have my settings fully implemented on it yet. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on over to my second flight. Now, the second flight, I turned it from 4K Super View down to 4K 30 wide in order to enable the hyper smooth boost mode, which I've heard a lot of good things about. I wanted to see for myself. Now, with this particular configuration, now that I got the exposure compensation properly set, I can drop on what I call my long-running GoPro treatment. This is not proper color grading by any means. Don't think that what I'm doing here is right. Look, I have more than one LUT. I got color corrections. I got so many things going on. But let's analyze this not for my color grading skills, but instead for the stabilization that we're getting out of this. So this is straight out of camera stabilization. Going. Now you see it's getting a little bit blurry there. Now Final Cut, it's showing us not the actual, I think I'm just overloading the computer is what's happening. It's not just showing us the final look of this footage. It's like if I pause it, you notice it will come up to a higher resolution because it works with like proxy files essentially while we're editing. But like, oh my god, that turnaround was not that stable in camera when I did it. I know that at this turn right here, I messed up and I had to make some corrections, but it's all just gone. It came smoothly through. I wonder if I could find, if I have the DVR from that. We got one more clip here that I filmed. This one is using the 1080p 120 frames per second. So this section here, I'm gonna use Shift B to blade speed and Shift B again to blade the speed. And for this section, we'll just slow it down to 25%. And we can get quarter speed footage. Now, it will film at 1080, 120 frames per second with hypersmooth on. If you are willing to give up hypersmooth, you can go 1080 at 240 frames per second. But yeah. I mean, I think it looks good. I don't think that the 1080p footage out of a GoPro looks particularly good. You have a lot of artifacts. It just, I don't think that it's the best footage, but you have it there as an option. Now, the next thing that I tried was to turn off image stabilization. I wanted to try to process it through RealSteady. Unfortunately, RealSteady just said no proper metadata found, which only tells us that RealSteady hasn't been updated to work with the Hero 8. Now, whether it will be able to process the Hero 8 well with it just on a normal mount like a Hero 6, or is it going to have the same problems where it needs like a super floated mount in order to process the footage from a Hero 8 like it does with the Hero 7? That's going to have to just, we're going to have to wait to see, because right now RealSteady Go is not handling the footage from the Hero 8. But let's just look at some footage here for reference in terms of how the footage looks with no stabilization, and see how much oscillations we got. I mean, it looks crisp, it's not blurred. If you notice any blurring, that's just because the render, oh yeah, that's definitely some oscillations. It looks like mid-throttle oscillations climbing out. It's totally just the mount for that GoPro. Just up there oscillate. You can see that if you look at it, it's not up and down, it's just left and right, because these little mounting things, they will move a little bit, and it's just oscillating left and right. I don't think that that's going to be a stable setup for mounting these cameras. You're going to need a full 3D print. This is turning into Stingy endorses 3D prints for your GoPro mount. I don't know though. Considering that there's absolutely no stabilization thrown onto the footage, it still looks pretty dang smooth because I'm that good a pilot. Now, one thing that I was really hoping for was better performance out of the audio, and I noticed that I haven't heard a ton of wind noise. I'm just getting mostly clean prop sounds out of this footage. Let's compare it with a flight earlier in the day on a Hero 7 Black before I took it to Best Buy and exchanged it. Let's just drop one of these clips in, like the last one. I was over at Steele's doing my tuning video today. We're at -12. I'm just gonna make it at the same volume level over here, give or take. I would say you notice how it's got this is the Hero 7. It has that tinny sound to it. Like, I've kind of gotten used to that sound. I will say the Hero 8. It's just straight prop noise. I think this might be the best sounding GoPro for mini quads in a long time. I'm actually excited about this. This is good sounding prop noise. I will say, on the prop noise side of things, just for the audio from the GoPro, very, very impressed. Now, I am just running it with the auto wind noise, which, like I said, I think is going to be your best bet for the audio, but I kind of am curious to hear how it's going to sound once we put it into a fully enclosed 3D print, though. That will be a good question. Now, real quick, there's one other thing that I'm really liking about this GoPro, and that is your quick access. If you look here at the back of the camera, what you're gonna see is we have our settings at the bottom, our current video settings. If you click on that, it brings up these three settings. The stock is standard, activity, slow-mo, cinematic. Now, you can click the edit button and you can fully edit each of these settings. So you don't have to have it as the stock setting. What I'm probably gonna do is have it set up with 4K 30 stabilized, maybe a 4K 30 wide with hyper smooth plus boost to get that almost the near real steady status for some shots, and then a high frame rate version. And yeah, at least those three I will definitely have as my presets. And then I can just jump into those presets right from there. You have up to 4. Very handy feature. And I think that about covers it on the GoPro. So these are just my first impressions of the GoPro. I'm gonna be testing it out over time. I'm gonna be getting a proper 3D printed mount for it and putting it in there and seeing if those oscillations go away. Are they worse? Was it my tune? What exactly was it? Expect to see updates on that. So far, I am impressed and I'm excited to do some more flying with this guy. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Click that like, subscribe, turn on notifications, do all the things, and we will catch you guys next time. All right, I'm out. Oh my God, I can't talk. I've been drinking wine, y'all.